Sometime this week, you spent money you didn't plan to spend, delivery that wasn't in the plan, something on Amazon that happened before you decided it was going to happen, a thing you tapped for without really stopping to think about whether you wanted it. That's not a character flaw. 73% of Americans say most of their purchases are spontaneous. That's from a Slick Deals national survey. Nearly 3 in 4. And there's a very specific reason that number is that high, a reason that has nothing to do with discipline and everything to do with something that happened in 1997. In 1997, a man walked into the US Patent Office and said, "People have this annoying little moment right before they buy something where they think about it for a second. I want to own the removal of that moment." And the Patent Office said yes. They called it one click. Jeff Bezos filed it in September of 97, got the patent in 99, and then spent the next 18 years enforcing it. He sued Barnes & Noble for adding back a confirmation step. Barnes & Noble said, "Hey, what if we just asked the customer once, 'Are you sure?' And Amazon took them to court. Because that pause, that moment of 'Are you sure?' That was Bezos' intellectual property now. It belonged to him. That's what he was patenting the removal of. And he wasn't the only one. Now there's what they built. Apple Pay launched in 2014. The pitch was, no more fumbling for your card. Just tap your phone. What they didn't put in the press release is that Apple takes about 15 basis points, 15 cents on every 100 from your issuing bank, on every credit transaction. Not from you, from your bank. Your bank, obviously, has feelings about this. Those feelings get priced into your interest rate somewhere down the line. But the beautiful part, from Apple's perspective, is that more taps means more revenue. Every tap you don't think about is money Apple made. Frictionless payment is not a gift they gave you. It's a revenue optimization strategy they named after you. And think about what that actually means in practice. You're in line at a coffee shop. $6. You tap your phone. Done faster than making eye contact. Your brain never registered a transaction. It registered a gesture, the same one you used to skip a song. Apple made less than a penny. You forgot about it before you picked up your cup. That happened, at a rough guess, about 200 times this year. Each one invisible, each one by design. Then there's Visa and Mastercard. $9.4 trillion in US purchase volume last year, not globally in the United States. They get paid per transaction and as a percentage of volume. Every swipe, tap, autofill a fraction moves. They have no financial interest in you pausing. A pause is a canceled transaction. A canceled transaction is lost revenue. Their entire infrastructure exists to make the path from wanting to buying as short and automatic as possible. And then there's Amazon. We already talked about the patent, but let me show you what removing that pause was actually worth. When Amazon implemented one-click, conversion rates jumped. One study out of Cornell found customer spending increased by about 29% among users with frictionless checkout. That hesitation, the moment where you thought, wait, do I actually need this, was worth an estimated $2.4 billion a year to Amazon. $2.4 billion gone, patented away, and you called it convenient. And then there's the word they use to sell all of it. Convenient. One click is convenient. Tap to pay is convenient. Saved card numbers are convenient. Buy now, pay later is convenient. Amazon dash buttons, remember those? Little plastic buttons you stuck on your washing machine so you could reorder detergent without the cognitive horror of opening a browser, convenient. They sent people to your door with hardware specifically designed to eliminate a 10-second moment of deliberation about laundry detergent. Detergent. They shipped you a button for detergent. Convenient is the word that packages the removal of your thinking as a favor. What it actually means is, we have engineered a shorter path between your impulse and your money, and we are going to call it a gift. That hesitation you used to have, the 2-second pause where you thought about whether you actually needed this, they spent billions removing it. They filed patents on it. They shipped hardware into your home to prevent it. And they named the removal convenience. So what happened when you went looking for help? You downloaded Mint. You downloaded Why You Need a Budget. You tried the one your coworker swore by. You set up categories. You color-coded your spending. And somewhere around month 3, you stopped opening the app. I did the same thing. I think I had 4 of them running at the same time at one point. I figured I just wasn't disciplined enough. Most people figure that It feels like the obvious explanation. You downloaded the tool, you didn't use it consistently, therefore you are the problem. That's a very convenient conclusion for the people who built the tool. And look, the data backs this up, not just the feeling. A real-world study of budgeting app users was conducted through a product called Clarity Money, backed by Goldman Sachs, which acquired the app in 2018. Actual users, actual spending data, compared against a control group who didn't use any budgeting tool at all. The result? The budgeting feature showed no measurable positive financial impact versus the people who did nothing. None. The results were published through a research collaboration with Duke's Common Sense Lab. The app wasn't working, and the evidence was published anyway. I genuinely respect that. Doesn't change what it means for you. And the reason it wasn't working had nothing to do with your discipline. Look at what an app actually does. You tap your coffee. You tap your delivery. You one-click the thing Amazon suggested at 11 at night. The month ends. You open the app. It shows you a wheel chart, 40% food and drink, 22% shopping, and then a slice that just says other, like it's too embarrassed to read the receipts. You feel bad. You resolve to do better. The money is already gone. Nothing changes next month because nothing changed about the moment when the decision happened, which was never in the app. It was at the terminal. It was on the website. It was in the split second before the tap. That sequence, spend first, see the damage after, is an autopsy. An autopsy tells you what killed the patient. It does not save the patient. And nobody ever got healthier because they had a really detailed autopsy. The apps were built inside the same ecosystem that removed friction in the first place. Mint was owned by Intuit, the company that also makes TurboTax, which profits directly from your financial situation being complicated enough to require software. Why you need a budget runs on your bank connection, the same banking infrastructure designed to make transactions invisible. Every budgeting app lives downstream of the spending infrastructure. You weren't using the wrong app, you were using the wrong timing. Now, there's something built on the exact opposite philosophy. A woman named Motoko Hani, Japan's first female journalist, publishes a household accounting system in a women's magazine. She calls it Kakebo. The word translates roughly to household financial ledger. It predates Amazon's patent by 93 years. It predates the smartphone by a century. The entire premise is this: before you spend anything, you write down what you intend to spend. Not after, before. That's it. That's the whole thing. Everything else is just the delivery. And I want to be clear about something because the internet has turned Kakebo into a whole aesthetic. There are beautiful leather journals and washi tape and minimalist YouTube channels and a lot of content about the Japanese relationship with mindfulness and money. None of that is why this works. This isn't about cultural wisdom or national character. It works the same way everywhere, for the same biological reason, because the human brain is the same everywhere. Here's what's actually happening when you write a number down by hand. Research out of the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, published in Frontiers in Psychology in 2023, found that handwriting activates broader neural networks than typing: motor cortex, visual processing, memory formation. When you type, the engagement is passive uniform keys, no information in the motion. When you write by hand, the shape of the number, the pressure, the act of forming the figure, all of it recruits cognitive resources that typing doesn't touch. Your brain is more present. The number is more real. And when the number you're writing represents money you are about to spend, that presence is the pause. The exact pause that Amazon spent billions eliminating. The pause Jeff Bezos filed a patent to remove. You are putting it back with a notebook that costs about as much as one of those coffees. Run the math with me. The average American spends $282 a month on unplanned purchases. Call it $280. That's according to Capital One Shopping's 2024 research, not a doom and gloom blog post, a survey of actual spending behavior. $280 a month, over $3,300 a year. Let me just stay with that for a second. That's a car payment. That's the amount most Americans say they couldn't cover in an emergency, spent month after month on things that didn't survive the next morning. Now, what happens if you intercept half of it? 50% interception of that 280, meaning half your impulse purchases hit a pause before they go through, and some of them don't survive. The pause gives you $141 a month back every month, not from a raise, not from a side hustle, Not from cutting the streaming subscriptions people always tell you to cut, from adding back the moment they removed. 141 a month. That's $16.92 a year. And here's what I want you to hold on to. That money was already leaving every month without you deciding it should. It was leaving in $6 increments, in $22 increments, in one-click increments, and you didn't feel any of them because that's the point, you're not supposed to feel them. The Kakebo doesn't make you richer by accident. It makes your spending conscious on purpose. There's a difference between money you decided to spend and money that left while you were tapping. That 141 a month is the gap between those two things. It's yours to redirect toward the things you actually decided, toward the number you're actually trying to hit. Here's how the system actually works. The real mechanics, not a philosophy lesson. At the start of every month, you answer 4 questions in writing before the month starts, before you've spent anything discretionary. They go like this. How much do I have coming in this month? How much do I want to save? How much am I planning to spend? And this one is the one that actually creates the change. How can I improve from last month? That last question is the pre-commitment. You're not looking backward at what you already spent. You're deciding right now what you want this month to look like. You're writing a savings target before the month creates any pressure to spend it. The envelope exists before the purchases do. This is the step the apps skip entirely. They never ask you what you intended. They only show you what happened. Then you track inside 4 categories. Each one matters. So stay with me here. Needs, rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, the stuff that runs, whether you think about it or not. These aren't what Kakebo is managing. These are fixed context. You write them down to know what's actually left. Most people don't actually know what their fixed costs total to. They have a feeling. Writing it down turns the feeling into a number. The number is usually worse than the feeling. That's useful information. Wants. This is the category doing most of the work. Delivery, coffee. The thing you saw on Instagram 3 days ago and can't stop thinking about. The subscription you signed up for during a free trial and forgot to cancel. Wants is where the 280 lives. It's not that wants are bad. The point of money is to buy what matters to you. The point is that you're deciding which wants are actually wants and which ones are just momentum. The category forces the question. Which sounds simple? It is simple. Simple is the point. You following the pattern here? Every category is a decision point, not a label. Keep that in mind. Culture. This one surprises people every time. Books, concerts, a museum, a cooking class, a movie in an actual theater. Kakebo separates these from wants deliberately because they tend to get cut first when people try to trim spending, and Hani's argument was that they shouldn't be. Enrichment spending is different from impulse spending. It deserves its own envelope and its own protection. Unexpected. The category that budgets always forget and then fail because of. The parking ticket, the copay you didn't plan for, the thing your car needs, the birthday gift you forgot was this month. Every budget that doesn't have an unexpected category is lying to itself. You write these in as they happen. They're not failures, they're data about what life actually costs. You write each purchase into the relevant category by hand within 24 hours. Not immediately, that would make it feel like surveillance. Within a day, while it's still fresh, while the purchase still has texture. Now, here's the piece that actually changes behavior, and this is the one that separates Kakebo from every app you've tried. Before any non-essential purchase over $20, you write it in the ledger before you buy it. Not after, before. You're about to book a $47 dinner reservation. You open the ledger. You write down 47 dinner, Saturday. You look at your wants envelope. You see what's in it. You make a decision, consciously. And I mean consciously, not carefully, not guiltily, just with your eyes open. Some of those purchases are going to survive that step, the ones you actually want, the ones that fit, the ones that matter to you. Some aren't. The ones that were just momentum, the thing you were about to one-click at 11 at night, the delivery you were ordering because opening the fridge felt like effort, those are the ones that disappear. Not because you white-knuckled past them, because you looked at them for 5 seconds and they didn't hold up. The pause isn't asking you to be stronger. It's asking you to be present for 10 seconds before the money moves. That's it. That's the entire ask. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I'm not carrying around a notebook in 2026 like some kind of minimalist monk who ferments his own yogurt and owns 4 plates. Fair. That's a fair objection. Actually, think about it this way. In 2026, choosing to write something down before you spend it is not old-fashioned. It is opting out of an infrastructure that cost billions to build, specifically to make spending automatic. Apple Pay exists so you don't think. One Click existed so you don't pause. Buy now, pay later exists so the price doesn't register. Every feature in that stack was engineered to get your money moving before your brain catches up. Choosing friction in that environment is not backward. It's countercultural in the most literal sense, opting out of a culture that was engineered for someone else's revenue. The notebook is not nostalgia. The notebook is a counterweapon. And if the physical journal bothers you, carry it in a notes app. The principle is the handwriting and the pre-commitment, not the leather cover. Then at the end of the month, you answer that fourth question one more time. How can I improve? And here's the rule, one specific behavior. Not, I'll be more careful. One concrete thing. I'm writing down every delivery order before I place it, written down. That becomes the pre-commitment for next month. The method compounds. Every month's reflection seeds the next month's intention. You're not tracking history. You're building a feedback loop, not about your spending, but about yourself. What you actually value when you look at it versus what you reach for when you're not looking. Here's what this is not. This is not a guarantee. The 280 average, you might be below it, you might be above it. The 141 recovery is a 50% interception rate, and your number depends entirely on what survives the pause when you actually run it. What I can tell you is what the research on post-tracking apps says, 0 measurable improvement, and what the pre-commitment literature says, adding a decision point before a transaction changes behavior. Not because you became more disciplined, because the architecture of the decision changed. You moved the choice from after the fact to before it. The apps failed you because they were built to show you what you already spent. That's a receipt, not a tool. Kakebo works because it forces a decision before the money moves. Your impulse spending is not a character flaw. It is the output of an infrastructure that spent billions making spending automatic and then sold you a tracker to feel bad about the results. A notebook. 4 questions. Asked before the month starts. Answered in your own handwriting. Put the decision back where it belongs. That's how you beat the machine they built.